Thank you.
Okay. Hello, everyone. This is a brief introduction about myself. My name is Wasim Badran. I came from the West Bank in Palestine. Graduate student at NSU, doing my MA in English, focuses linguistics. I'll be graduating in December, less than 3 weeks. I'll be back in Palestine to serve as an instructor of linguistics and English language. Today's presentation carries the title of Negotiating Bilingual Identity, Arabic English Code Switching Among Palestinian University Students. So this is, a very quick hint. Overall, my study focuses generally on students, Palestinian university students, sociolinguistic awareness and attitudes. And my research, I attempt to explore how students code switch between English and Arabic, the reasons beyond doing such a practice, and what their awareness of these practices does really reveal about language, identity, and social factors. So before delving more into the term that I'm really focusing on a lot on my research, which is called switching, let's just go back to the big term under which this term actually falls, which is sociolinguistics. Sociolinguistics is a branch of applied linguistics that primarily deals with, the interplay or the relationship between language and society and how each affects the other. So in sociolinguistics, actually, we study factors like age, gender, social status, economic status, and/or education, and see how such factors, impact in turn the way people behave in a designated society or in a specific community. And in this case, the act of behavior that people really do in Palestine, and not even in Palestine, even like in other countries outside Palestine, which is code switching. And code switching here actually refers to the alternation between two or more codes, here means languages, in communication. And it seems this is very common in both bilingual and multilingual societies. So, for example, in Palestine, we mainly use 3 different languages. Our native language is Arabic. We also have rudimentary or proficient knowledge. It depends, on the individuals. In Hebrew, because it's the language of occupation over there. And of course, we use English. But it seems in Palestine, as you know, English is widely used in education, social media, and the professional context, while Arabic, it seems, the dominant language for daily interaction and cultural identity. So there has been a considerable body of research on this phenomena inside Palestine and in out of proximity about code switching, but very few researchers have really investigated the students' awareness, like to what extent they are really aware of such a practice when they code switch between 2 or more languages. So I believe that understanding this phenomenon actually does really provide us insights into linguistic behavior, social identity, as well as perceptions of language prestige as a social factor. The questions I bore in mind all the time when I was crafting my research, so I attempted to answer them throughout the research. The first one, I needed to figure out the patterns and context of Arabic English code switching among these Palestinian university students. Then I needed to know to what extent they are really aware of such a practice and the attitudes they really hold when they do really switch between 2 different codes or languages. So the main objective here of this study takes us back to the big umbrella when studying or investigating any practical issue in sociolinguistics, which is to investigate the interplay between language use, social factors like modernity, prestige, or whatsoever, and sociolinguistic awareness. For my participants, my study, it seems, involved 10 participants from, they were admitted at Palestinian University or Palestine Technical University, Kaluri, in Palestine. They were aged between 18 to 24. They were selected using stratified purposive sampling, which is just to ensure diversity in gender, in their major, and their backgrounds, like whether they come from rural areas or urban areas as well, because all of these factors do indeed affect the way people speak or how they behave in their societies or with their peers. So All my participants were native Arabic speakers, but of course with high proficiency in English language. I know this is, a small sample to have like 10 participants, but in social sciences like sociolinguistics, this is more than enough to study deeply, to interview 10 participants, or like 5 to 10, it seems, because, the type of approach we really use is really, thorough and intensive. So it is really exhausting and exhaustive as well to deal with higher numbers of participants, because the main objective here is not to generalize such a phenomenon. What you're really interested in is the fact that you need to see how such people behave in a specific society. So I think that was the reason why I chose 10 students to interview, So this study allowed, of course, an in-depth exploration of such a study, which is code switching and their behaviors and attitudes as well. And of course, when running any kind of research, we need an approach, a theory, or a methodology so that we can analyze or run our data. So the theory or the approach I adopted is referred to as a grounded theory. This is very well known in social sciences, because actually, when using such an approach, now we shift from the traditional way of running research or running analysis, which is, referring to or adopting a deductive approach. So you have your theory, you follow it, you follow the guidelines, then you run your analysis. In this section, what I tended to do is the other way around, which is we needed to elicit the theory from the data, directly from the data, from the words of the participants. Which means in later research or with later researchers, they will be using my theories that I really reached at the end of my research as their deductive approach. So my inductive approach will be a deductive approach for later research. And of course, using or adopting grounded theory is very essential in such social processes, especially when dealing with code switch and such a practice, because it does really provide us with a systematic framework for generating themes and categories from the words of the interviewees or the participants. When I collected my data, I conducted semi-structured interviews with 10 participants, as I mentioned earlier. The interviews were mostly in English, very few of them were in Arabic. The questions I asked them, there were, I think, 90 questions for 10 participants. They focused mainly on their experiences, attitudes, as well as their awareness of code switching in academic, social, and online contexts. So definitely the interviews were recorded via Zoom so that I could transcribe them. Or definitely, the Zoom technique has that feature, which is the transcription, the caption, and then they were analyzed stepwise using the grounded theory approach. Grounded theory, back to grounded theory. Grounded theory, is a three-phase process where you need to follow 3 steps in order to come up with your big theory, at the end of your research. So the first step is we start with something called open coding. Then we move to the next step called axial category. Then the last one, which is selective coding or your general themes. When it comes to open coding, this means you break the transcript of your interviewees into meaningful units just to identify, initial patterns from these interviews. So, for example, if I ask the first participant, why do you use English language? One of their answers is, as you can see, because it sounds more professional or smart in class. If through this reply or answer, I can say, okay, this is the open code here, and we can tell or entail that this code entails, English for professionalism, and so on. So this stage just, ensures, this is a very general stage, just, to set the stage for our analysis. So it just, helps us to identify the meaningful units in these interviews and these answers, without any kind of bias. Then we move to the next step, which is the axial categories. This, takes us a little bit further into broader categories, which shows a relationship, of course, between the participants' interactions, different behaviors of social, interactions when it comes to their open codes we already reached at the beginning or the former stage. So, for example, as you can see in here, when one of the answers says, okay, I use English for professionalism, and the other says, okay, I use switching for technical terms, we can tell that though they are really, they seem different, with different answers, still they are interconnected because at the end of the day, they serve as academic-driven or function-driven switching. So this is the next stage. And as you can tell, this stage allows us to start establishing our patterns through the interconnection or the relationships of different behaviors of these interviewees or participants. The last stage of this analysis, which is selective coding or our themes, then we can start generalizing our themes through the Excel categories. So for example, we can see or generalize, that code switching has definitely functional uses. It has, for example, social identity purpose. It has sociolinguistic awareness. We can test, for example, their attitudes and perceptions when it comes when they and how and why they could switch between two different or more than two different codes or languages. This is a sample analysis. Of course, I'm not going to go through every step throughout my analysis, but this is very simple, a very simple overview of the sample analysis. These are the participants. These are their codes. These are the three-phase processes of the grounded theory, where I opened the code, then I moved it into a broader category, then moved to the main theme or the core theme or selected themes. So, for example, one of the interviews said that he used English like to sound more smarter. So we can say this is the open code as English for professionalism. We take it a little further, which is, this is academic-driven switching. You can see the repetition or the pattern that emerging here from participant 4, which says he used that especially in online settings, and he says that I always switch to English because it is faster, which entails this is more about efficiency when speaking like a language, and of course this is the function driven. So now this is the relationship between two different codes. And at the end of the day, we can have or generalize our theme at the end, which is the functional use. So these are the patterns, and this is how actually we start doing, figuring out our patterns in order to generalize the whole idea of code switching. Lastly, our key findings in here, we can, I reached this conclusion through the constant comparison between the participants' responses, because this is what grounded theory tells us to do. We need to have that kind of constant comparison between their answers, and you compare and contrast. So we can generalize that code switching has a functional use, very much like it's used for academic, technical, online efficiency purposes. When it comes to social identity, for example, it's like in Palestine, among these Palestinian university students, English is used to signal modernity, prestige, and group affiliation. When it comes to sociolinguistic awareness, it varies. Actually, some students would be really very aware and conscious when they code switch between two or more different codes, and very few who really are unconscious when it comes to switching between English and Arabic. Their attitudes, it seems, we do have really mixed attitudes, but when it comes to Arabic language, it seems they use their native Arabic language in order to preserve their identity. And of course, these findings reveal at the end of the day that code switching is contextually driven and socially meaningful. So this is the end of my presentation, which was very, brief about the whole research I've been conducting for 6 months now or so. I hope you liked it. If you have any kind of questions, I'm really happy to answer your concerns.
I think it would be good to go ahead and have questions.
Yep.
Now
and then
for
move
about
on.
5 minutes.
Yep.
Wasim, how did you recruit your subjects?
Well, of course, when we started our process, when doing this kind of research, we went through the IRB application, and through that, of course, we shed light on recruiting the subjects. So I had like that kind of contact person back home at that Palestinian universities, one of my friends serving in the English department. So I contacted them in order to send them the flyer, told them what kind of procedures he should follow to tell not only the students of the English department, but how to generalize it, to the other students enrolled at Palestine Technical University, Kadoorie.
And did you have more than 10 people contact you, or and that did you end up not using some of the responses?
Yeah. When I send them the questionnaire and the links toward, to ask them for their permission to participate if they're willing in such a study, and of course there were like different procedures to protect their privacy, and there will be no harm for their participation in such a study. Then I received, I think, up to like 15 or 17 responses from them. But of course, then I chose only 10 because it would be really exhaustive to do like a study for each one. Like my professor, my supervisor, Dr. McBride, has done his PhD dissertation with interviewing maybe up to 15, and that is a doctorate body of research, not compared, of course, like a thesis, which is maybe half by length.
Mm-hmm.
Yes. So all these students were in Palestinian universities, or they're like in universities in Palestine and not here in America?
What do you mean?
Were they like abroad students studying in the United States, or were they, in another country?
Well, in my case, I came here like as an exchange student, studying abroad, in the United States. But of course, we do have like our Palestinian universities where you can finish your whole degree, whether undergrad studies or graduate studies. And we do have like some PhD levels. But of course, to attain your degree from a reputable university from the US or like any international school outside Palestine would be a great benefit to our home universities when we transfer our knowledge back home, because it seems the research skills we acquire in such institutes are really way different from those we might really acquire from back home.
And the subjects, your 10 people, those were all students at the Palestinian Technical University in Palestine at the time that you did the study.
Oh yeah. All of them came from the same university, but of course, different majors. Some of them like majoring in STEMs, others, for example, majoring in English language, others in engineering, and of course, like all of them came from different backgrounds, from rural areas, villages, towns, cities. This is why, such factors do really impact our findings. Like we can then, for example, find such patterns that females or like freshmen, females admitted in the English department would speak in a different way from males admitted in the engineering department. So this is all about like social sciences studies.
Why were you interested in code switching?
Because I myself code switch a lot between English and Arabic, and I consider it like, when I use English, for example, back home in Palestine, because as you can tell, like since we're in Palestine and the dominant language is Arabic, then it sounds really strange to start speaking a different language, especially with your family or with those who are really not familiar with the language you're talking or speaking. So I would code switch a lot because it signals modernity, prestige, education. It can signal that, you know a different language, which means you have a different way of thinking. And of course, when I even came here to America, I would notice, like Dr. Beth, she would code switch between English and Spanish. So, for example, I can see this is, common a practice among people. They would code switch. And, even code switching is not really confined or tied to like two different languages, but sometimes people code switch between the same language. Within the same language, the standard language and the dialect or the vernacular language. So code switching, has different dimensions, but it depends on where your interests lie. Yes, go ahead.
In your research with your subjects, you found that for the social identity, English was signaling modernity, prestige, group affiliation. I work at the Center for Tribal Studies here at NSU, and I've kind of noticed that for students who are studying their Native American languages, it's kind of the opposite. They're not to say cliquey, but they have strong group affiliations based on their emerging mastery of these languages. Do you think that it might have come out different if you were studying a population that wasn't strongly bilingual in the first place?
Yeah, I think the results might be really different. And this actually stems from the fact that in not only Palestine, but all the Arab countries would consider foreign languages, not only English, but of course, since English is an international language, language of science, technology, language of education. And of course, this gives them a hint that they're really they're superior compared to their fellows or mates, to their family members. So whenever you meet up with a Palestinian, whenever they pronounce any English word, you would designate that, okay, they're using that just, to signal that they're really superior compared to their fellows, because they would really know more English than the others.
Right. I see that a lot with Cherokee in particular. Well, we know Cherokee. You don't.
In groups and out groups,
Right.
Oh, yeah.
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 You have these two little girls. Are you teaching them both languages now, or are you saving one back?
Well, okay. When I touched down here in the States, it was in January, and when I left them, they were like a year and a half. So now they're turning 2 years and a half. And I think I didn't have the chance to raise them now in a bilingual environment. But of course, I'm planning to be really strict with that, to teach them English, because, I do believe, they need English, not as a major to study, but, as a way of communication, because I do believe it is a window that opens, different opportunities, not only within the realm of teaching English as a language. Like for myself, I really regret not learning English efficiently when I was back home, especially in schools, so that I wouldn't major in English language just to speak English. Like imagine that, you're fluent in English, but still majoring in engineering, for example, or being a doctor. That was my dream. So for my future plan with my daughters, I teach them English. If they're really interested to take that pathway to major in English, that's their choice. But I'm not going to make for them, like an obstacle for them for not being able to speak English.
Right.
Mhm. Very good.
Thank you.
Right.